ask you, are you recording this session?
Yeah, I just started recording.
Okay, thank you.
So, Sumant, I think we can start. All yours.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So yeah. Uh, so let me talk about my journey, and a very nice thing is to start with Om Shri Ganesha Anama, okay, which is very typical of the way we normally do things, which sort of is the ritual where we focus on the job at hand. It's something that whenever you're starting any work, it sort of focuses you so that you keep the rest of the world out, and that's what you do. So this is something that is really, really very wonderful about uh, one of the rituals that we have. And like that, there are lots of rituals. Each of them have their own meaning. So let me start. Okay, for me, as a designer, when I left IDC and even when I was in IDC, sitting through Kirti's courses, Kirti's lectures, uh, still there was a thing about what the word Indian means and what does it mean to me, especially as a designer. And to expand it, is there something like Indian design thinking or methodology? Because design the way we have got it is sort of imported. Not that it is wrong or it is bad or anything like that, but is there something that we can get from our Indian systems, which sort of is relevant to a designer in the way that he's working? So how does one really go about finding this? So that was where my journey started. And I thought that the best way is to look at all the systems. So I started sort of going deeper into various sort of systems like science, architecture, dance and theater, mythology, uh, visual oral arts, crafts, and other traditions. Okay. Um, Music, which has always been a big part of my life. Okay. Though I'm not a trained musician, I've trained in playing the tabla, but not in terms of singing or anything. Health systems, and it sort of goes on. So I was looking at all these things, and I could see that there was some sort of a pattern which slowly revealed itself, and that was really fantastic. Okay, so this time what I will start with is music, because I think that's one of the most interactive and very easy to experience. Okay. So here's where I would like to have a little more interaction if uh, possible. Okay. What is musical or melodious to us? What sort of do we find musical? Is there something that is common that I find musical and you find musical? The answer is probably obvious that yes. I mean, all of us like songs, and some might not like some, and others might like the same ones. But still, uh, there is a commonality. Now, let's go a little deeper into this, and I just want a quick response if possible. How many notes are there in a musical scale? If anyone can respond.
12. 12.
12, which is actually absolutely correct. But most common answer often is that people give is 7. And Sorry, I'm in the wrong tab. Okay, so one question was, when you're looking at a musical system, especially in India, it's there's a lot of stuff. How possibly did the musical scales that we know develop? One of the things that earliest sort of musical uh, practices that we know of is the mantras. And it is not just the mantras that we know. There are still traditions in Kerala where mantras are there, where they are taught a series of notes, okay, which do not make any sense. They have some words and stuff like that, but they do not make any sense. And study shows that these sounds are closest to bird songs. Okay, so it would probably have started from listening to bird songs and, oh, you like that song? Okay, we can start imitating that. And it then became a ritual, which was then passed on generation to generation. And India is one country where you can see that continuity across the years. Right from the beginning of Indian civilization to today, you have still, probably not everything, but quite a lot of it is still around, so that you can actually trace a continuity. Okay, so chanting mantras is one of the things. So if I just look at the scales, so I'm going to use a virtual keyboard just that people sort of get a hang, are able to see this. Okay. Can you all see the keyboard right now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So if you look at just these three notes, Q, 2, and W. Sorry. Not so melodious, but if you say Om Bhur Swaha Om Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. You just have three notes and you'll see that they are quite close to each other. Or you have something like this. So you have these notes which exist, and when you chant them, you are actually hitting a particular note. If you extend this like to, so you would be able to extend it right up to getting an octave where you got the lower this one, and it actually is a cycle. Oops, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it actually is a cycle. Now, these 12 notes, if I actually just play them one after the other, I don't know whether anyone here would find it melodious. Not very melodious, right? So what among this would be a melodious sort of thing? So that is the octave that virtually everyone is familiar with. These are a set of notes that sound melodious. So this is a smaller set of notes, but when they are played together, there is a certain thing that everyone feels this is nice. What happens if we just choose a few of those notes and not all those notes? Now these are certain notes. Let me say that so this is the total scale. let us say I don't have this note, okay, and I don't have this note. So what is remaining is you'll see that a lot of songs, this will sort of, you can recollect that sound similar to this. So here's a question that I want to ask you. This tune that I'm sharing, it's when you play it slow, it sounds probably like a Japanese Chinese sort of tune, with a lot of their music is in this pentatonic or 5-tone sort of composition. What is the sort of mood that you feel? How does it feel to you? Does it feel sad? Does it feel happy? Anyone feels? If y'all can just share. What is there any sort of specific emotion?
So I think it's a little bit on the happier side, maybe. What we
Yeah,
might
it's
say.
happy, peaceful, nice.
Peaceful.
Nice, yeah. It can also be very peppy. For example, this sort of the same tune that I played. This is like a typical marching tune that you could have. So largely it is happening. Now I just want to show you what happens if I just change one note. Instead of this note, I will choose the E over here. Okay? And now let us listen to this. Sorry. All I have done is changed one note in it. Okay? I have just changed this to this. Now, what is the mood that you feel that this is? Anyone feels that this one is happy?
I think this is more thoughtful and sad, I would say.
Yeah. So this is one of the things that is the realization when the music system started developing, that a certain set of notes can create emotion, that it is linked to an emotion. Some notes will be happy, some notes will be sad. Okay, and in that sense, this gave rise to what you know, what we know now as ragas. So the first 5 notes, the happy version, is a rag called Bhoop. Okay, and the second one is a rag called Shivranjani. So we started developing these concept of a group of notes being ragas. Okay, and from there was more experimentation, and one of the beautiful things about it is that these were based on the fact that everyone feels the same way about this. Bhoop is happy for everyone. Okay? And Shivranjani is sad for everyone. So it is not something that is learned. You're not learning it. It is there in you. You're born with it. There's something within our DNA which says this is happy and this is sad. So in search of the ragas, you're also searching an understanding of the human. So the system has developed based on human systems. what actually makes us human. So the human experience is something that people were experimenting with. I'm just using music as an example, but actually you can see it in other things also. Okay, so I would like to take a small deviation just as an example. Anirudh, in fact, I've plagiarized this from Anirudh's presentation. Okay, we used to present these sort of things during design issues, so I'm sort of sharing his slide. Okay, the alphabet. Now, the Indian alphabet. Can I ask you before this? The Indian alphabet has a certain structure, but let's say the English alphabet. I just want to ask you, is there any reason why, say, A, B, C, D, B comes after A, or C comes after B, or D comes after C, that you know of?
I think it's a position of the tongue. A,
B, C.
I mean,
D,
just
E,
by
F. Actually, there isn't. It's a historical serendipitous occurrence. Okay, the Romans had alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and that was connected to something else. And since that was the series, they gave symbols for it, and the name came to become the symbol also for the alphabet, and that's why you got alphabet. But you look at the Indian systems. Now, in the Indian systems, you'll see there is ka, kha, ga, ga. Ka is a sharp note. Kha is that same sharp note with a blow. Ga is a slightly softer version of ka. Gha is that ga with a blow and an even softer version. So ka, kha, ga, ga, nga. Okay? It happens here in the throat. Okay? Cha, cha, ja, jha. No. It's happening, with your palate. Again, cha is sharp, ja is soft, okay? And then softer with a blow. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. So that is made, this is also called linguals. It's made with your tongue. Okay? Ta, tha, da, dha, na. So from sharp to soft. Okay? Same way, ta, tha, da, da, na. So there is pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. Slowly you are going in this alphabet from the back of your throat to your lips. There is a very simple, understandable, intuitive logic to this. It is built on the way the human creates sound. Okay? So there's the human element in these systems that are developing, and you can see this even in our language. For example, if I take a very, very simple English sentence, I hit you. Now, if I interchange the words, you hit I, you I hit you I, hit I you. How many of these sentences make sense or even the same sense? Does the sense remain the same? It does not. Now, if you try the same thing in Hindi or in your mother tongue, I mean, this is India, so there will be a lot of mother tongues here. मैंने तुम्हें मारा, मैंने मारा तुम्हें, तुम्हें मैंने मारा, मारा मैंने तुम्हें, मारा तुम्हें मैंने. All these make sense. So even in language, our system is more sophisticated in terms of the syntax and how it creates meaning to us. Okay? It's quite phenomenal to see that this actually happens across various systems, even in a system like mathematics. Okay, so coming back to the music part of it. Okay. Now, here's the thing that they did next is, what happens, so there are ascending notes and descending notes. What happens if some notes are taken out in the ascending sequence and other notes are taken out or put in the descending? What if there is a difference in the ascending notes and descending notes? Okay, so for example, here's a very, very interesting rag. This is also one of the first rags to be taught in Indian Hindustani music. Okay, now the sa, the base note, okay, the root, the tonic is very, very important. And the other most important note is pa. So sa re ga ma pa. So the pa is very important. Sa and pa. Now, there is a wonderful rag called Yaman. Okay, and it has, in its ascending notes, the sa and pa are missing. The most important notes are missing. And in the descending notes, everything is there. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. Okay, so listen to one of the songs in Yaman.
जब दीप जले आना, जब शाम ढले आना, जब दीप जले आना, जब शाम ढले आना, संकेत मिलन का भूल न जाना, मेरा प्यार न बिसराना, जब दीप जले आना, जब शाम ढले आना.
So ni re ga ma dha ni sa. These are the ascending notes. Ni re ga, there is no sa. Ma dha, there is no pa. Ni sa, sa ni da pa ma ga re sa ni re ga re. Now, if you want to get to the sa, you have to go up and then come. Ni re ga re, ni re sa, ni re ga ma ga. Ma ga re ni re sa ni da pa. When you're coming down, you can go to a pa. Ma dha pa. When you're going up, no pa. Ma dha pa dha ma pa ga ma ga re ni sa re ga re. So this is Yaman. Now, because I'm sorry, my throat is a little bad. I've got a slight cold. Okay, so, but in this, what you have is the mood of that rag. Jab deep jale aana, jab sham dhale aana. The absence of the two notes creates a mood which is very typical of this rag. So, you have these rules for different rags because they sort of create a different mood. Okay, so rags started getting developed which create these different moods, also with the combination of different notes in the ascending, different notes in the descending. Sorry, I was trying to. But it's not just that. Also, there are different sort of aesthetic styles in rendering the notes. Okay. So this is a rag called Gourd Malar. Okay, let me just play this for you. So what you'll see over here, like when we started, we said 12 notes. Okay. But actually, there aren't 12 notes. There are many, many, many notes. It's like an analogous medium. Okay, there are lots of notes in between those 12 notes. And aesthetic styles are created by the way you sing with those notes. So, Garajat barsat savan ayo re garajat. So you're not sticking to one note. Garajat. And in the way you sing, this song depicts monsoons. Okay, this rag depicts monsoons. It's a malhar. Okay, so you'll see lots of these singers having these sort of styles where they are using the variation between notes to create a sort of an aesthetic mood. So it's not just the notes, the 12 notes that we're talking about. It's not garajat barsat, it's garajat. So this aesthetic style that people have brought with the rag, and they've experimented with it a lot. Oh, so there is a thing called gamak, where you go. So that is a style. I'm sort of exaggerating it, okay, just for making you understand. And it's sung a lot more aesthetically than I did. But that's a gamak. So the use of the gamak became something that people looked at and developed and made it something wonderful in the music that was sung. Now, here's another rag. Okay, this is a rag called Darbari. Okay.
हंगामा है क्यों बरपा थोड़ी सी जो पीली है हंगामा है क्यों बरपा थोड़ी सी जो पीली है डाका तो नहीं डाला डाका तो नहीं डाला चोरी तो नहीं की है हंगामा है क्यों बरपा थोड़ी सी जो पीली है.
So I would have liked to play these songs fully, okay, but we'll run out of time. So I'm sort of going faster. So this is a rag which is called Darbari. Okay, and what you'll notice in this rag is हंगामा है क्यों बरपा थोड़ी सी जो पीली है मापधा पानी पानी नी पा मापगाओ मरे सदा मेरे सा मापधा. This is another aesthetic style which is called a mean. Okay. And you'll notice that we are not talking about one note. You get the notion of the note, but you also have a lot of microtones in the middle of the tones that are there. Okay. Now this is a rag called Darbari. There's a reason why I'm saying that, which will be obvious. Now there's another rag called Bhatyar. Let me just play that for you. Okay, the sound of this video is not very good, but everybody will remember it, so I thought I would play this. And the feeling of that rag is, again, I feel is universal. So this is a rag called Bhatyar, and as I don't know whether anybody would disagree, but it sort of evokes early morning, right? Yeah, anyone feels differently?
No.
Yeah, so now just notice this. We started with talking about emotions that certain notes can get. Now you'll see that Gourd Malar basically evokes a season, specifically the monsoons. Okay, Darbari by name, it is supposed to be sung in a darbar. It's a grand, it evokes a certain grandness. So you're probably presenting it, singing it in front of the king and stuff like that, and or some very elite audience or a good big large scale program. Okay, and Bhatyar is basically denoting a certain time of the day. Okay, which is early morning. Incidentally, Bhatyar belongs to a Thaat which is Marwa, which is late night. Okay, so I'm not going to get into Thats and other details. Okay, so this is not just a music appreciation lecture. But even though that Thaat has a basic structure, and then depending on small deviations, you get various rags out of which belong to that Thaat. So Bhatyar belongs to morning, even though it belongs to a Thaat which is late night. So there is no clear-cut rule that this is how it is. It is based on what you feel. It's based on what the human feels. Okay. So the concept of ragas, as you will notice, is structured according to the effect that it creates on us. So it's associated with emotion, time of day, season, location. And over the years, from the beginning of understanding music, it has blossomed into like many ragas. Okay, and in fact, new ragas are even created today. So it is not even static. This is a dynamic system that is evolving over the years. Okay, so when we talk about Indian culture and all, we think that it is something in the past that we need to preserve. It's not something in the past. It's very much in the present. It has developed from the past, and we can still enhance it and grow it. Okay, so this is what Indian systems allow us to do. It allows us to absorb new knowledge and enhance what already exists. Okay, and if what you want to create in musically is not belonging to one raga, you are allowed to mix multiple ragas to create a sort of narrative that you want to convey. So one of the things that I want to say is that the vastness that all this musical system has now created over the years and years and years and years of development. Now, it is very difficult for you to even imagine singing any tune which does not belong to a particular rag. Okay, I'm giving you one example, but almost any tune that you can think of, you will find that it fits into some rag or the other. Okay? So, okay. Many of you all would have heard this song. So I'll play it for you.
The club isn't the best place to find the lovers, so the bar is where I go. Me and my friends at the table doing shots, tripping fast, and then we talk slow. Come over and start up a conversation with just me, and trust me, I'll give it a chance. Now take my hand, stop it, and the man on the jukebox, and then we start to dance. And now I'm singing like, girl, you know I want your love. Your love was handmade for somebody like me. Come on now, follow my lead. I may be crazy, don't mind me. Say, boy, let's not talk too much. Grab on my waist and put that body on me. Come on now, follow my lead. Come on now, follow my lead.
Yeah. I assume that most of you all must have heard this song. Right? Yes?
Yeah, we heard this. Yeah.
Okay. This is quite a popular song. So I'll play another version of this. Come now, follow my lead. Come now, follow my lead. I'm in love with your body. Same song. It's the same song, but let us say it's with an Indian accent and improvisations. So that is one of the things that, Indian systems manages to do, because it's based on the basic principles of what it is for us to be humans, is that automatically it is no longer Indian. It's universal. And if it's universal, then we can use it in a way, whichever way that we want, that we feel is appropriate for everyone. Okay? But one of the things that I would like to mention again with music as an example is when you see this raga, The rag gives a structure. It says, okay, these are the only notes you can sing. Ascending, you can use only these notes. Descending, you can only sing these notes, and stuff like that. There are also a lot more other, as ragas get more complicated, there are also a lot more other nuances that makes a rag that particular rag and no other rag. Okay. So the question comes is this restricting? Sorry, I was sharing the wrong screen. So is this really restricting? Because, you have to sing within that. Whereas, Western music, for example, will give you the whole freedom to compose anything, anyhow. They also have some sort of systems, but it's not as developed and easy to follow as what we have here. But what you realize is that within this system, within this structure, it gives you full freedom and individual creativity. The structure is not restricting. The structure is actually liberating. And if you understand one rag, another rag, and third rag, you can always combine them. So this is actually precisely the sort of space that we as designers are often in. We need to figure out the boundaries, we need to figure out the process, but within that, we are asked to be creative. So, there are basic principles. Any domain that we are working in, we need to understand the basic principles of what that domain is. And what those basic principles are actually is based on what it means to be human. So in designer terms, we'll say the user, okay, the target audience, or whatever terms that we use, okay. But essentially, being human tells you what those basic principles are, understanding what it is to be human. And based on these principles, then deeper understanding can be developed. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper into understanding a certain aspect. And that can then be enhanced. Okay, so this development is open-ended and it's still happening in virtually everything that you see in India. Okay. What it does, it basically gives you this huge landscape to play around. Because this system actually gives you an entire thing. Okay, now tell me what you want to play. What game do you want to play in this playground? And then depending on what game you want to play, you can develop the expertise in that area more and more. Develop the knowledge in that area more and more. Okay, so on one hand, it is holistic. Okay, and on the other hand, it is detailed. So they seem to be contradictory, but because these systems have been allowed to develop over many, many years, both of these are possible and you can observe them. And this is something that I have not touched on specifically in music, but many of these systems also have two things that they deal with. The basics of the universe on one end, the entire universe, or the environment, if you're looking at a smaller concept, okay, and the human experience on the other. So this is what I call mile-wide, inch-deep approach. That is, looking at everything and seeing how possibly it is connected, and followed by an inch-wide and mile-deep approach. That's my takeaway as a designer. I do not have hundreds and hundreds of years to evolve, but I can see for anything that I'm developing, I can see what the playground is. How big is the playground? Everything and anything that can possibly be connected, I can look at and then figure out what are the basic principles that make this whole system work. Based on that, I can decide what is my design brief for one particular project, and on that I can go deeper and deeper and basically tackle that particular design problem. Okay, so mile wide, inch deep, followed by an inch wide, mile deep. So the mile wide, inch deep allows you to be holistic, and inch wide, mile deep allows you to be specific, contextual. Okay. So because they are developed on basic principles, the other thing is, these principles, if you just think about it, if I've been sharing some other screen, I'm sorry.
No, I think the screen is fine.
No, I was sharing, I don't think I shared the screen. Okay.
We got this, yeah.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah, we got this.
Okay. Okay, cool. So, yeah. So, now what we are doing is we are sharing absolute, we are creating things based on absolute basic principles of a domain. Now, if you think about it, Bhoop and Shivranjini were not created now. They were created long back. But you react to it the same way as the guys who recognized it and gave them names as Bhoop and Shivranjini. These won't change because they are based on our being human. So until we change, they are not changed. Okay, so let our lifestyle change, social structure change, anything happens. These basic principles remain as they are. This makes them timeless. And if we can sort of, anything that we're doing, if we can dig deep into figuring out what these basic principles of that particular domain is, it means that no matter when, where, and what we are doing, something will be right about it. Okay? Sorry. So this was something that struck me, especially when I was thinking about how music structures would have developed. Okay. And then I saw the same sort of thing in other things. And then I said, oh my God, this is really interesting. Can I use it in my work? Okay. And I have been, because it's bloody simple. You think about anything and everything that can connect to what you're doing. Try and figure out the patterns, try and figure out the principles, then apply them to what specific thing you're doing. And if it's so simple, is it so obvious? Are we already doing this, or we are doing it unconsciously? But the moment I was conscious of it, I could apply it much better. But one thing, when we are saying that it is all about humans, it is not it is not egocentric, it's human-centric. Okay? What does that mean? This is something again that Achyut Rao's talk on Triz, you might see a sort of an equivalent. Okay? The human being is a very, very complex system. We still don't know a lot of how it works. Okay, but it still works wonderfully. So irrespective of who you are, okay, this is one of the most accessible laboratories for you, because you need nothing but yourself. Okay? And virtually all knowledge systems in India are based on either human existence or how can we apply an equivalent paradigm to something else. So if I can solve a problem about that is related to being human, and if I see a problem outside, metaphorically, if it compares in terms of being the same sort of solution, I can use my learning about being human and apply it to that. If my basic principles on which this solution was based is correct, it is unlikely that it will go wrong with something else. So taking your problem, generalizing it, finding a general solution and applying it to that problem. It's something so similar to what Triz philosophy is. And that's one of the things I was very interested in hearing about this system, because in a sense, that is close to what we have been doing for many years. Okay. So you can comprehend the complexities of the world, universe. I mean, imagine these guys were sitting here, okay, on Earth without major telescopes or anything, and they were able to figure out phenomenal things about astronomy. Okay. And there's a book on Vedic astronomy which is there. I will share it someday. And some of the things are so phenomenal, like twin stars, things that we cannot see. Okay. And why? It is there. We knew that Earth is not the center of the universe much before anybody else. And one of the reasons why that was possible is because we were human-centric but not egocentric. The humans were not the center of everything, but they were the source of knowledge. So you could apply various things that we did for ourselves, with the study of ourselves, to the study of everything around us. Okay? And this metaphorical use of our knowledge about ourselves, you can see in lots of places. Okay? Now, example, I won't get so much into Purusha and Prakriti because this goes into a much longer talk. Okay? But Vastu Purush is a little more easier to talk about. Vastu Purush basically deals with the fact that you look at your living space like a human being. Like human beings eat food and breathe, and the energy is basically absorbed, and that creates a wonderful, healthy human being. Your health of your house is also important. Where is the light coming from? Where is the air coming from? Who are the people living in it? How are they living? If these are basically the organisms that makes the body of your house. The structure of the house makes the body of the house. And if you look at it like, because it is a living, breathing space, it's not just a structure. It is an abode where there are living people living, and everything is changing constantly. Okay, but so if you look at the house like a human being, you can apply a lot of the things that you learned about human beings to architecture, to building, and then it starts making perfect sense. So there is, of course, a lot of mystical stuff that has entered into many of these things, but the basic principles are pretty solid in most of these systems. Okay. Now, none of these things, though we are talking about humans, the human is not the center. I've said that many times now. But the human is an entity which is a part of a larger scheme of things. And I suppose everybody knows what I mean when I'm talking about this. Arjun on the battlefield says that, oh, I'm going to kill my relatives and this and that, and how can I do that? And Krishna says, who the hell are you? You are nobody. I mean, look at the bloody universe. You are nothing in it. You are a speck, and if you are there or you aren't there, it doesn't really matter. Right? So, it's not just about being human and how great. This is one of the slides from my lecture, so one small note from there, which is an indication for me that I'm supposed to end the lecture here. Okay. So, sorry for that. But what you're saying is, humans are part of a larger structure, and never forget that. While you're so busy understanding yourself, you also need to understand how you're connected to everything around you. Okay? So, that is just as important as understanding yourself.
So Sumant, you want to do a time check? We had kept 1 hour aside for this.
Yeah. So how much time have I taken?
Actually, your note came just at the right time. You have taken 1 hour.
Yeah. So I have almost finished. So we are basically here. If we call these guys who have developed the system as designers, okay, they never saw themselves creators or inventors, but rather as a channel through which the great creator sort of expressed himself. You know, a singer never says, I am the great singer. He says it's all this thing. He sings through me. Okay? The self is basically a channel for some bigger power that exists. Now, whether you give that a persona or you say it's part of the entire ecosystem. Okay? This is what it is. And this is the sort of approach that is there. Now, I can talk about this in terms of something else, which is the chakra system, which is another phenomenal system, okay, which is something that I would like to talk about, but that's another entire domain altogether. So yeah, I'm stopping here. So any questions, anything that you want to share, whether you liked it, didn't like it?
Hello.
Yeah.
There was echo when I was speaking. I'm not sure if it is.
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you one question, which is more philosophic. Probably you covered. I truly believe the Indian music system, for example, is very well structured from semiotics to syntactics. It has all those elements. And what is the reason why it does not have a mass appeal?
Who says it doesn't have a mass appeal?
I mean, mass appeal is when you see the manifestation of the ragas and this structure, the pop music becomes more popular. But if you're talking about a system of music where all these structures are in place, what is the reason that classicism doesn't have mass appeal?
I had asked this question to one of the great artists, okay, who played the violin. This is N. Rajam. Okay, she plays the violin. And she said, the reason why classical music is for the classes and popular music is for the masses. Now, when you say classes and masses, you don't mean hierarchical. What you're saying is the developed person and the lay person. Okay? Now, as you get more sophisticated with something, everybody is not going to necessarily appreciate it. But you should understand that when you like pop music, it is classical music. Ed Sheeran is classical music. Okay, the Beatles, after being so popular at the height of their popularity, they had reached a certain level where they were able to appreciate a Ravi Shankar. Okay? And you will see this across the board. I mean, now the following that Rahman has across the world. Okay? It's not just in India. And what Rahman does is he takes the best of Western music and the best of Indian music and gives it a mass appeal. So when you're doing something which has a mass appeal, it doesn't mean it is not classical. A classical concert may not be everybody's cup of tea. But the same Bhimsen Joshi, who sings rags for 3-4 hours at a time, is also well known for his bhajans. I mean, who used to sing, but he still sings in my heart. So there is no difference between popular music and classical music when it comes to being part of the same medium. There is a difference between classical music and popular music. The other way is not true. So, but all popular music is, in a sense, a manifestation of classical music. Because classical music, especially the Indian music, covers everything. Do we have time?
Yeah, I think it's all up to us.
So
If
do
we
we
stay
have
back,
time?
we can talk.
Yeah, okay. So I'll give you an example. Okay. Dun, taran, 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 tarararara. You remember this? Huh? So if you take this and you look at various songs, okay, the Western songs, this is almost like a rag. Okay? Birds flying high, you know what I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new world, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. तुम जो मिल गए हो ऐसा लगता है कि जहां मिल गया. It's the same rag, if you can call it a rag. बाजे मुरलिया बाजे बाजे रे मुरलिया बाजे अधर धरे मोहन मुरली पर होठ पे माया विराजे बाजे मुरलिया बाजे birds flying high, you know how I feel. It's the same thing. On one hand, you have Pink Panther. On the other hand, you have Bhimsen Joshi singing this bhajan. So classical and pop are not two different things. Yes, there are levels, but they are all part of the same this thing. So that's where I'm saying that if the basic principles are there, anything will fit into it. It's universal. So it's not even Indian. If it's Indian, it's already global. And one of the beautiful things about it is that if we understand how to use our Indian knowledge, we will probably as designers come up with the best global solutions for the future. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Nimish, could I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, please
This is
go ahead.
Govind. Hi, Sumant. It's quite interesting to hear the lecture. Quite a number of questions, but let me ask one or two. Sumant, I don't know where to start. One particular point, let me just explain. Yes, there is a remarkable and tremendous depth in the classical systems. There's no doubt about that. We can go from music to any other, or dance, etc.
Yeah.
But beyond that, how do we use it as a fertile ground for the designer? I think that's my concern. Okay. That's my question.
Okay.
In that question, on one hand, we can take it as this, it's an absolute truth, and we can't tamper it with, or we can't manipulate it. Maybe those are the traditionalists. Let's take a slight step from it and then see that. What are the ways to manage it, manipulate it, exploit it? The movies have done that remarkably well. You have shown good examples too. Movies have taken some of those ragas and created remarkable visual poetry out of that. My question is, and I haven't seen designers exploiting in the similar manner.
Okay.
Can we have examples?
Yes.
Converting the ragas or using the rhythmic construct of ragas into visual cues, whether that's in animation or whether that's in visual tones, or can we even create an advertisement based on a raga structure? Let me just extend it further up. Can we create three-dimensional artifacts that's based on the construct of ragas? Or can we even create spatial constructs? Say, for example, that's a forte of architects. Okay. Or can we create that, or can we try to do that? And If you start doing that, then our exploration and our forte of work can broaden up, and hence the traditional systems have got a greater meaning.
Okay.
Meaning of exploration and meaning of engagement.
Okay.
And then we can do exactly similar to what the movies have done with respect to the ragas.
Okay.
So that's my question. The second point I just want to make, I have a bit of concern about a human-centric world, because I think the evil of the modern system is that human-centric, and that's why the philosophers and then the ideologists move away from the human-centric to ecocentric, in which the man is not the center of the universe, but the system is the center of it, and man becomes one component of that.
Yes.
Why I'm saying this is purely because when you create, the ego is part of that human, and how do you create an humane without that ego? And if you need to get out from that ego, we need to keep the human-centric nature out, and in that outlook, then the ragas will become much more stronger, because that's exactly, ragas are, we have got examples about the ragas, examples on ragas, that yes, it can even move the weather, move the climate, or Hanson's made rain precipitate, or rain comes out because of the particular raga recitation. So that goes beyond humans and connects with the nature and natural systems. But again, that's yet another discussion session. But I just want to get back into the first one, saying that can designers literally make use of that ragas and the construct of that?
I'm sure. Yeah. So I'm sure that we can. I'm sure that we can. And that is probably a creative exploration of music in other dimensions. Okay. And musical structures in other dimensions. There are lots of stuff that is done similar, but yes, this is a creative exploration. Whether there is a functional use of it, or there will be a very nice aesthetic use of it, definitely. Okay. Because whenever there is a structure and a flexibility, there is both a form and an aesthetic that can be translated. Okay. So yes, but I would like to answer this in a slightly different way. Music and the musicality that we feel as humans is one. When you're talking about something else, for example, you're talking about lyrics. Okay? Lyrics is something else. It is affecting us as humans in another part of our brain or heart or whatever. Okay, it's not the same part. But when it comes together, it creates a sort of combination. So if we are looking at music as music, and if you're looking at another domain, this cross exploration of domains is fine. I mean, that's a creative exploration and something great might come out of it. Okay? And I'm not aware, but maybe somebody has already done a lot of it. I know that they have done things like this of spatial movement and music and sound being created and stuff like that. There are some experiments being done, but not necessarily with classical music or structures of classical music or something that I'm not aware of. But let me give an example. Okay, there is a famous Nimish, you might like this. There's a famous this thing called, which goes patta patta boota boota. Okay, so there are different people who have sung it. Okay, different artists, very, very popular. So there is a Mehdi Hasan version. Patta patta boota boota हाल हमारा जाने है जाने ना जाने गुल ही न जाने बाग तो सारा जाने है. Now Ghulam Ali has sung this. Pata pata बूटा बूटा हाल हमारा जाने है जाने न जाने गुल ही न जाने बाग तो सारा जाने है. And then Shiv Kumar Sharma and Hari Prasad Chaurasia have given music for a film. Okay. Patta patta boota boota हाल हमारा जाने है पत्ता पत्ता. You see, they are basically all talking about love in the exact same lyrics. Okay, what music does to it, and it has the power to give these lyrics one more dimension. Okay, the Mehdi Hasan one is talking about the pain in love. Hal hamara jane. Okay, his focus is on the hal. And Ghulam Ali's focus is on the fun, playful, nice, romantic feeling. Okay. And whereas Shiv Hari, because they have given music for a film, and there is Amitabh Bachchan and somebody else, I'm not sure which film it is, I forget. Okay. Cavorting around trees. A typical Hindi love story, Hindi film love story. It's got a different feel. It's a running around trees sort of story. It's an interpretation of the same words with different aspects of love. So dimensionally, it gives a different weightage to lyrics. Similarly, when you are going to a temple, the bell ringing gives a different ambience to that architecture. So if you stick to what music does along with other domains, you'll see that there is a hell of a lot of exploration that has happened, which takes it cross medium. Okay, but it's a valid point of area of research that you can do where you can take equivalent structures and all. But right now, to me, it seems more like an academic exploration than something greater than that. But if the knowledge that is generated from that can be applied, that would be fantastic.
So, Sumant, I'll just like to add to that.
Yeah.
There is some interesting exploration that has happened in the last 5 centuries, and this is called Rag Mala paintings.
Yes.
So, the visual aspect. So,
Yes.
So,
Yes.
the intersection of visual and music. So that's very interesting.
That's true. That's true. See,
Pahadi and
interpreting visuals that are based on rags or interpreting the visuals as music. Okay, that has been happening. I mean, and what Baban said about films, it happens very naturally and obviously all the time when you're talking about films, which is a multimedia sort of a platform, where the visual and the lyrics and the music sort of interpret each other and go hand in hand and add to it and give different dimensions that are perfectly suited for that particular medium, whether it's visual or whether it's words or whether it's music. So yeah, Ragmala is one specific thing that is beautiful. And this is more of an artistic exploration. What Baban was asking about is how it can be used in terms of design. So that's why I didn't mention it. Anything else? I just want to ask, what do you feel is, do you feel that there was some nice relevant stuff in what I shared? Or it is a little too obvious?
Hello.
Yeah.
Was that question for me?
For everyone. Yeah, but you can answer since you actually spent a few years as a student and then now you are a professional. So.
I mean, it's quite complicated when we talk about things which are very sensitive and there's a lot to explore in it. But like the inch deep mile long inch deep example, the generalized approach in design that we talked about during these lectures, and nowadays you don't get to be a specialist because things are expected from you. Even as a student, you have to be a researcher, you have to be an expert in illustration, you have to be expert in storytelling, and it's very overwhelming what you can do in a very limited amount of time, and same goes for life as well, and also the daily decisions that we take. And this, in a way, uh, I mean, I'm still out of words. I don't know how I should express this. But then this, in a way, gives a clarity in mind that, if we really think about how we do or experience things subconsciously, we all have a common ground.
Yeah.
And all these opinions and all these thinking abilities, or the way we are, I mean, uh, the kind of thinking that we have is something very society built, rather, because things have, like, in one of those lectures you said, like, this whole subcontinent has been influenced by so many empires and the kind of influential people that we had around up until now. So there's so many things already inbuilt in us, and you cannot particularly, if you really want to have that learning approach in life, you cannot particularly just be focused on one. You have to accept 10 different things because you have this great culture within you.
Yes.
You are not just one point oriented person. So, I mean, I'm really sorry, I can't phrase it into sentences. But then this really helped me in designing small things, or or really appreciating the way users interact with the product itself. So one of the projects that I did was for you know uh, to redesign a water tanker, and it's such a sensitive matter that we have in India, where the kind of water tankers we have, it causes health issues. It causes small children to menstruate at a very early age. It causes people to it basically has a lot of dramatical and as well as health impacts on the society itself. They climb on the tanker and then they take draw out water, and that is not the way we should interact with water. Water is so precious and it's so priceless. And if you really, and I think I've थोड़ा line से दूर हो गया, but then these things, all these subconscious things, it helps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that subconscious wala thing is good. Maybe the connection will get made somewhere somehow. But being aware is good.
What I have found is that getting on the conscious level has really helped me. What we think is subconscious, getting from subconscious to the conscious level has really helped my work in design. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to say. Yes, sir. Achyuta, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. For me, from the first batch, we never had this kind of inputs, though I think, it was only a 15 months course. It was very short, but, as we, grew, we had to do a lot of work ourselves to find these elements, this Indian, it has been always a challenging question for me, actually, as, how do we really justify? So I had an inherent belief that, we have much more, system in our past.
Yes.
So I think one thing that, what enlightened me is that, the human emotions are influenced by, and, our past, they have identified what influences the emotions, and then they have created these systems. I mean, that's what we are also here to, excite this emotion within the, the human being designing, right? I think there is a commonality of the grounds in the various mediums, and then more and more understanding of these when we become, that we will probably become a better designer. I mean, that's what you have. That's what I could, grasp from you. I think, which is a very, very fundamental.
Yeah, when we're talking about music, the emotion becomes like one of the main focuses.
But I think everywhere it is like that. whether you go to play also it is like that. So there could be more than mediums, right? There may be mediums.
But like, for example, when I just showed you one last slide of the chakra system, now then you're not talking only about emotions. In the chakra system, you're talking about the physical self, the emotional self, the intellectual self, and the spiritual self. So it is, when you're talking about music, yes, it sort of focuses largely on emotion. But if you're talking about something else in the Indian systems, you're talking about everything else.
Yeah. No, as a designer, I'm supposed to take care of all of them, right?
Yeah.
Probably you're only, at the outside, see what is to come on the outside and what has to go deeper into that is what ultimately, it's all packed in one design. So designer has to have all the elements to be, including structure, and, everything. I mean, system, I told system, subsystem, and super system, right? I mean, that's what we put actually. I mean, what you are talking is same thing like, super system, Vishwa, or, book and whatever we call in our Mitra, our Shastras, right?
Yeah.
And so they have gone into a very large scale.
Yes.
I mean, probably we may not consider that in that scale actually at the moment.
Yeah.
That's how, it is, otherwise I think it's absolutely relevant, and the more and more deeper understanding we have, and then probably we'll start appreciating much deeper than, and then probably we'll create most useful things.
Yeah, so if you are interested, I would like to take another talk on the chakra system, another one on mythology.
Yeah, I think it's open to all the people.
And the third one on a case study of one of my projects of how I have used my learnings in that project.
Sumant, I think Nadkarni sir has a question.
Yeah, sure. I can't see him, but
he waved. I don't know.
He's muted. Unmute him.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Unmute him. He's muted. Still muted.
Yeah, I am not able to unmute. Sir, you will have to unmute yourself.
You will have to unmute.
But it shows muted.
Yeah. Sir, we can't hear you.
The audio on karo.
You can unmute everybody, Nimish.
No, I can't.
No, as an organizer, I think you can do that.
नहीं हो नहीं रहा है वो.
नहीं होता क्या? Unmute everybody. There's one somewhere here. I think there's one button. Unmute.
Maybe not on Google Meet.
How come?
Sir, press the mic button.
Yes,
press the mic button on your. Okay. Or was he saying bye?
No. I think he wants to say. Phone karo na. Nimish phone karo. Unmute karo.
Yeah, actually, in some presentations, we actually had to do that. Student presentations.
No, मेरे पास number नहीं है.
Okay.
Mish, do you want me to speak to Nadkarni sir and ask him to
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Okay, I'll do that.
He's speaking, but we are not able to hear.
Hello?
We can hear you now.
I was saying only bye-bye to you.
Sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for joining and listening.
Nadkarni, I'm seeing you after a long time. Yeah, nice to see you again. See you after a long time. Yeah.
Thank you. Good.
Good pleasure.
All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for staying awake.
Yeah, okay.
ठीक है, so Sumant, I guess if we don't have any other questions, we can close this and we can schedule another one.
Just let me know if you are interested in hearing more talks.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure, looking at the number of people who are
Sumant, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sure a lot of people are interested, so we'll do it again.
We are at least something useful you are learning.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sumant.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Great.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, Sumant. Wonderful talk.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sumant.
Thank you. Very nice talk.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Sumant. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
You could have ended with a song.